Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to present our next panelist, the first panelist, Mr. Michael Laubsch. He's a strategic expert in countering terrorism, security expert, and political Islam, specialist who gained first-hand experience being an advisor to EU institutions on Central Asian issues, and later on a spokesperson for a European Citizens Initiative, which is called Stop Extremism. Incidentally, some copies of one of his publications are available here, courtesy of our friend here. Thank you very much, Dr. Sebastian. And he is, in addition, he is now advising EU institutions on issues such as political Islam and extremism. He specializes in preventing violent extremism. Mr. Michael Laubsch, it's a great pleasure to have you with us, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mutasim. I hope everyone here can hear me. Sure. So first, of course, I would like to thank the organizers of this event, Levant News, which does really an incredible job here in Europe, informing not only the Muslim community living here, but also informing the Europeans about what's going on in the region of MENA, but also informing the society here regarding the developments of Islamistic structures and so on. So I really appreciate the work of the team. Also, thanks Mutasim for your kind words and also your very interesting presentation. I think I can go home now because you said so much interesting stuff and also things that I also would like to mention. So if you realize that something is repeating what you've already heard, just understand it as underlining some topics. At first, on this day, today, me as a European, before jumping into the pool of Muslim Brotherhood, I have to say the following. A Brexit deal might be more realistic than ever. Let's see Saturday, but as a young boy, I was spending most of the summers here in England, and I was always I always love England, its people, its country, and but I always saw also Britain as part of the European Union. And so speaking today here in London on this day is for me personally a little bit weird. So this is something I just wanted to underline before going to the topic. The Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood, its history, its ideology, its actions here in Europe is really a very, very important topic. For more than 50 years, the European Union, the European governments did not realize the possible danger that is caused by the Muslim Brotherhood. And it's still mostly closing its eye about the danger the Muslim Brotherhood has here. To get a better understanding, because many Europeans or many Westerners combine maybe Muslim Brotherhood with Salafists, with Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra. No, this is totally different. And I would call the ideology and the strategy of the Muslim Brotherhood as here in Europe and in the West as a legalistic Islam. They are going through the institutions here in the West, trying to undermine our democratic pluralistic system, and this is in total different to the terroristic acts, and this is also probably, I'll come back to that later, this is also probably why many Western governments and officials close their eyes, because they don't see the Muslim Brotherhood as what it is in reality. Please I would say this in front. Please excuse me for possible clear words. I'm not a born diplomat, and I think just especially in such a presentation, it's sometimes better to speak clear, open, and maybe sometimes drastic words to describe something. And maybe sometimes I will exaggerate, but then forgive me for that. I hope it's working. Yeah. So the topics I would like to discuss is just a brief history of the Muslim Brotherhood. Many things you heard already from the recent presentation. The ideological background of the Muslim Brotherhood. What is the MB doing here in Europe? And especially pointing out how the MB strategy is working here in Europe. And what challenges does it mean for Europe? You see on the right side, probably 95% of you maybe understand Arabic. You see the logo of the Muslim Brotherhood. For a Westerner, for a Western politician who's maybe talking to a nice Western-suited guy, not obvious that he's from the Muslim Brotherhood. It looks like quite nice, those swords, but Western-suited members of the Muslim Brotherhood go to politicians and only say one word. What they don't find any word Christianophobia or Jewophobia or Buddhaphobia. No, they use it actively to throw back any argument saying this is Islamophobia. They are against Islam. Me personally, I'm not against Islam. I'm a big supporter of the Islam because the Islam is one of the most peaceful religions in the world. But what the Muslim Brotherhood did out of it is dangerous. So let's start with the brief history. I will make it a little bit faster so we don't get bored with this. Just read it as you like, and I just say some sentences about it. So it's really important to see what is the historical background of the Muslim Brotherhood. Otherwise, we cannot understand what the main purpose, ideology, and what goals they want to achieve. The Muslim Brotherhood, in my view, we often think, and when we talk about Islam, that Islam is intolerant, illiberal, anti-democratic, and the Quran as the basis of this. This is not true. We're talking about the political Islam. And who is the inventor of the political Islam? It's the Muslim Brotherhood. Before the Muslim Brotherhood, there was no political Islam. There was no word saying is the inventor of the political Islam. And it uses this political Islam as a weapon to conquer the world with peacefully ideology, how they say it. Peaceful in the case that they don't accept, to one extent, when they speak it openly, are beginning to see the dangers of organizations like the Muslim Brotherhood. But unfortunately, still, the state authorities in most of the countries in Europe don't act what their intelligence service is saying. Fighting an Islam based on pluralism, without one authority and a single interpretation, saying what is wrong or what is right. This is one ideological point we have to underline in this case. And the Muslim Brotherhood is not working in Europe as one organization. They have hundreds of sub-organizations which are not affiliated to the word Muslim Brotherhood. I come to that later on. we also see that they are always trying to infiltrate the Muslim communities, at first through charity, through helping the poor, and then starting to infiltrate the believers, and trying to, especially here in Europe, trying to separate them from the society. Also, when we go deeper, we can see that the Muslim Brotherhood is saying that the Sharia is the only guideline for a statehood. There is nothing about a constitution, there is nothing about elections, there is nothing about pluralism, different viewpoints on political topics, different viewpoints on religion. No. Only one organization says what is right and what is wrong. They also separate societies in believers and non-believers. And only the believers of the true religion, of the Islam, are the legal ones. The non-believers are more or less dirt. The leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, Mr. Al-Qaradawi, says this always in his TV program or in his video messages. They also have a supranational view, so they are not only acting in one country, no, they see their movement as a supranational movement which is starting in the MENA region maybe, but then spreads out into the world, and I'll come back later to this. They also want to conquer Europe. And since the migration of Muslims to Europe, speaking about Turkish people, Egypt's, this strong ideology of reconquering Europe is one of the key elements of the Muslim Brotherhood. Also, Israel, Jews are the other main enemy of the Muslim Brotherhood, beside, of course, topics like secularism, national identity, pluralism, and religion. So who is behind this? We heard already that there is a guy called Al-Qaradawi. Mr. Qaradawi was taught by Hassan al-Banna, the first ideological leader of the Muslim Brotherhood. And after being jailed several times in Egypt, and also agitation against the then President al-Nasser in Egypt, he left. He has developed close ties to Qatar leaders and can presumably be regarded as the religious chief or the head of chief advisor of the Al-Thani family in Qatar. Mr. Qaradawi has made a significant career in Qatar. He established various religious educational institutions, founded the Qatar University's Faculty of Sharia Law, and probably his most famous impact, not only in Qatar but in the whole Arab world, was his weekly TV talk show called Sharia and Life, broadcasted by Al Jazeera since '96. And as you know, Al Jazeera is the state channel of Qatar. And this show of Al-Qaradawi is viewed by approximately 6 in Cairo-based Islamic website featuring resources and fatwas. And I come back later to this. Qaradawi is president of the Europe-based European Council for Fatwa and Research, a very dangerous organization in my view. So let's see just a brief look. What is Mr. Qaradawi in fact saying? I hope this will be running.
سلط عليهم طوال التاريخ من يؤدبهم نتيجة إفسادهم. آخر تأديب كان تأديب هتلر ما فعل بهم وإن كان مبالغوا في الأمر ما بلغوا، ولكن استطاع أن يعني يوقفهم عند حدودهم، وكان هذا أدبا إلهيا، تأديبا إلهيا، عقابا قدريا لهؤلاء. والمرة القادمة إن شاء الله ستكون على أيدي.
So this is something he said regarding the Holocaust by the Nazi regime in Germany. It's a punishment by God for the Jews. Another statement, because many people, especially here in Europe, say, well, Muslim Brotherhood, come on. What is Mr. Al-Qaradawi saying about Europe?
كنا في أحد المجالس فذكر بعض الأصدقاء حديثا يقول إن الإسلام سيفتح روما، ومعنى هذا أننا سننتصر على الأوروبيين مرة أخرى. فتح روما، فتح إيطاليا يعني وأوروبا، معنى هذا إن الإسلام سيعود إلى أوروبا مرة أخرى. هل من ضرورة الفتح أن يكون بالحرب؟ لا، ليس من الضرورة. هناك فتح سلمي، فالفتح السلمي له أساس في هذا الدين، ولذلك أنا أتصور أن الإسلام سيفتح أوروبا من غير سيف ومن غير قتال، عن طريق الدعوة والفكر. وأوروبا شقيت بالمادية، وشقيت بالفلسفة الإباحية، وشقيت بالاعتبارات غير الأخلاقية التي تسود العالم، اعتبارات النفعية واللذية، وآن لها أن تستفيق وأن تبحث لها عن مخرج وعن سبيل غير ما هي فيه، ولن تجد طوقا للنجاة ولا سفينة للإنقاذ إلا في دين الإسلام.
So here you see the three core elements of the Muslim Brotherhood regarding Europe. At first he says we have to reconquer Europe. Second thing, he describes the strategy of the Muslim Brotherhood, how they can achieve this, not with a sword or something, no, with the help of their own weapons, we start to infiltrate them. Unfortunately, I think not many European politicians have watched these videos. When we are talking to European politicians, this is one of the core elements we always show them. So let's go to Europe. What are they doing here? And this is the most important topic I want to discuss. So they are sponsoring a lot of Islamic centers across Europe. They have financing structures, we heard already, through the Qatar charity, but not in a transparent way. So even when we do some research on mosques, on cultural centers which seem to be close to the Muslim Brotherhood, we cannot find any direct link. So you have to do a lot of research until you find someone in the board of some organizations who is then linked back to some Muslim Brotherhood organizations. They have close connections with religious authorities of the Turkish government. I speak of Mr. Erdogan, through which they act across Europe. Especially Erdogan's Milli Görüş plays a vital role. And as you may know, Erdogan is the political foster son of the Milli Görüş founder, Mr. Erbakan. As I said before, they have hidden structures, the Muslim Brotherhood, and again, West is closing its eyes. In our research, we found out that there are probably 200 sub-organizations acting here in Europe, who are of course not officially Muslim Brotherhood, but which are directly linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. We find those organizations and sub-organizations in Germany, in the UK, and in most of the other EU countries, and their message is definitely clear. But they don't only work through religious or cultural institutions. I especially would like to mention CETA. CETA is an organization, a political lobby organization, which is, unfortunately, you probably won't believe it, the only advisor to some national governments in the European Union, the only advisor to an organization like the OSCE or the European Parliament regarding the so-called Islamophobia. They, with financial help of the European institutions and the OSCE, they publish yearly a so-called Islamophobia report, where all individuals and organizations are mentioned which criticize the Muslim Brotherhood. And they just kill them not literally, by hearings, official hearings in parliaments, in official events by the OSCE and by other official organizations, by saying that Mr. XYZ, Mr. Laubsch, Mr. Reimer, or anybody else is Islamophobe and therefore is not trustworthy. This is how they work. And an organization like CETA officially is financed solely by the Erdogan regime and gets every year a funding for this Islamophobia report by European institutions and the OSCE. The Muslim Brotherhood also is always calling for the destruction of Israel. They approve the use of suicide bombers. They tolerate the genocide of the Shoah. They support the right of polygamy because it is allowed in Sharia law. They defend the beating of women, and they also defend female subordination. They approve corporate punishment for homosexuals and demanding the death penalty for professed atheists and converts leaving Islam. They definitely rank Sharia law above secular order. I always already said that. And, as we heard from Qaradawi, predicting that Islam will return to Europe as a conqueror. The financial structures. My organization did a little bit of research. As we already heard, you get all the sheets, so you can read this in a quiet manner. So we added all together in several countries with mosques, cultural centers, a total of 120 million euros was spent 2016. Two centers close to the Muslim Brotherhood. So what's the strategy of the Muslim Brotherhood in Europe? Of course, there is no official record how they would like to act here in Europe, but unfortunately there was a leak in the late 80s. There was a leak of a strategy paper of the Muslim Brotherhood, how they want to achieve their goals here in Europe. And I just would like to quote some excerpts of this. To accept the principle of temporary cooperation between Islamic movements and nationalist movements in the broad sphere and on common grounds such as the struggle against colonialism, preaching, and the Jewish, a single effective warning system serving the worldwide Islamic are more or less the same members. I also mentioned already CETA, Miligurish. They are advisors to European governments and institutions. Also, when we heard earlier about Mr. Ramadan, his grandson, Tariq Ramadan, grandson of Mr. Al-Banna, the founder of Muslim Brotherhood, was the first professor of contemporary Islamic studies here in Oxford. The state of Qatar and the Qatar charity paid in total about 14 million euros for this institute, and probably you all know what happened to Mr. Ramadan. He was accused and also jailed for raping young women. I just go a little bit faster. Oops.
That's too fast.
So what are the challenges for Europe? Mr. Reimer, I think, will go a little bit into detail about the challenges for Europe. But let me say the following. We have to open the public discourse, and not only through the means of an event like this, but we have to have politicians here. We have to political stakeholders talk to us. We have to have the media talk to us, because still many Western media say when I give interviews to them, they use the same word. Oh, you hate the Islam. You are just against any Muslim. No, I'm not. I'm pro-Muslim, but I'm anti-Muslim Brotherhood. Do your research, dear journalist. We cannot allow the organizations like the Muslim Brotherhood and its structures to be the only partner for Western state institutions. Now we have the situation in Germany, universities, state authorities, etc., where only close sub-organizations of the Muslim Brotherhood are the key advisors for example, the German government. There is no critical voice sitting also in this board, because those sub-organizations kick those critical voices out of the, we call it in Germany, the Islam Conference. Only close members of the Erdogan supporters, of the Qatar supporters are allowed there. The same with universities in countries like Germany and Austria, where I can speak of. Also, the topic that the politicians are still not believing us when we prove what we say, they still think it's not true. Also, a topic which is sometimes seem to be unimportant, the topic of halal certification. This is a money machine for the Muslim Brotherhood. The European Union and its member states should do a law on an official halal certification, so that sub-organizations of the Muslim Brotherhood are not allowed anymore to receive hundreds of thousands of euros from Muslim supermarkets, etc., to get the certificate. So this is a practical example where something has to be done. I think I was talking too much, and I think that my colleagues are going into other topics and going into details or something. Thank you very much for listening, and yes, thanks.